Welcome back. Welcome back to the Kovacs report. Now, I've had to make this video at least 12 times because I just got so angry making it, and nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see that. But we are here now, and I am reluctantly going to deep dive into the Amazing Spider-Man issue 15, legacy number 979. We are on the road to that commemorative 1000th issue of the Amazing Spider-Man. And boy, oh boy, the last few years have been fraught with danger and rocky, very, very rocky, with Zeb Wells and Nick Lowe purposely dismantling everything we loved about Spider-Man. Now, Joe Kelly is 15 issues into his run. The glimmer of hope of returning this book back to its former glory has been slipping away. And this issue, I'm afraid, is another nail in that coffin. Now, we are going to go through it page by page, so there will be spoilers. If you have to punish yourself by reading this book on your own, I absolutely apologize in advance, but there will be spoilers here too. So like the video if you can, hit subscribe. I'd really, really appreciate it. Now, we are promised with this beautiful cover, but remember, don't judge a book by its cover. And that could never, ever have been more true. Okay, never been more true about a book than Amazing Spider-Man issue 15. We are promised with a new suit, a new alien, a new Nemesis, but will it make the difference? Let's dive straight in. Now, if you are new here, okay, let's quickly do a rundown of what's going on. Now, we are punished every month with 2 Amazing Spider-Man issues. Why? Well, we've got one with Peter Parker, the Spider-Man in space, and we have on Earth, we have Ben Reilly filling in as Peter Parker and Norman Osborn filling in as Spider-Man. That's right. Why? Well, Hellgate, a completely boring, made-up, arbitrary villain, okay, has come to Earth for some dumb reason, okay, and beaten the living snot out of Spider-Man and told him that he needs to basically toughen up, come back and fight me, or everyone's going to die. So he kicked him off into space where he was rescued and kind of imprisoned by Xanto Starblood, who was collecting sentient life to experiment on. Now, Peter Parker himself, you know, ever the resourceful and do-gooder, freed all of those sentient aliens on Xanto's ship and kind of captured Xanto too with magic technical underpants. That's right. I am not making this up. He has put magic underwear, essentially, well, technologically magic underwear on Xanto. So Xanto now has to be a good guy. Honestly, I promise you, this is the truth. This is the truth. Now, Peter Parker has to get stronger so he can come back and defeat Hellgate, but he hasn't returned to Earth yet, even though he probably could. Why? Well, I think Peter's scared to return to Earth, actually, for various reasons, which you're kind of slowly uncovering in the previous 15 issues of this book, or rather 14. But of course, the ever-do-gooder, and that's good. That's the true character of Peter Parker, I must admit, has decided, no, he's not going to go back until all of those released refugee aliens are taken safely back to their home and their loved ones. And that is the adventure in space. Why? I don't know. Probably just to sell us 2 books a month. Puts Peter Parker in a new suit to sell those variant covers and get you to spend all your hard-earned cash. Now, that is a very long intro, and most of you are probably switched off. But if you have managed to get through that mini rant, let's get into this book. And it starts off good. I've got to admit it. We see Peter Parker rushing in to greet Aunt May. He is so relieved to be back in her arms. She's relieved that he's safe as well, okay? Because what's going on Earth is that Peter's just been ignoring her and avoiding her, not returning her calls. So she's worried. So she is so relieved to finally have Peter in her home and in her arms. But all is not as it appears, as she spontaneously combusts and just engulfed in flames as we see a looming Hellgate in the background. It was all but a dream. And this is where my dream died, because I thought, wow, this is up the stakes. This looks pretty cool, right? It's but a dream. We're back in space. And Peter has awoken to Rocket Raccoon, who is one of the other sentient beings that were captured by Xanto Starblood to be experimented on. Now, Rocket Raccoon, as per usual, is in a bit of a spot of bother. He owes some money, some gambling debt to this other alien gangster, and they have come to take either the money or the corpses back home. Now, That's where we are. Now, Rocket Raccoon is actually written really well in this book. I think Joe Kelly, who I respect as a writer, okay, would very much suit a Rocket Raccoon series or a Guardians of the Galaxy series. But he doesn't suit an Amazing Spider-Man because Pete's dialogue and everything else in this book is just so awful. It is awful. It just drips off the page with cringe. And the cringe is a word I hate saying, but it's the only word that fits here. Anyway, Pete, of course, ever the diplomat, ever the person to, be selfless and solve everyone else's problems except for his own, okay, meets with this gangster, okay? They're all assembled. There you can see Xanto Starblood towering over everyone else in his technologically magic underpants, okay? I'm just going to say that again. Now, Pete's trying to barter, basically, for Rocket Raccoon's life. Now, Rocket Raccoon says, listen, I tried to pay the debt. I put down a deposit, okay, which will be a recurring joke throughout this book, which will fall flat every single time it's made. All right, but I was captured by Xanto, and I've just got out. I was going to pay it. I was going to come and see you, all right, but I just haven't got around to doing it yet. But Pete says, listen, being the selfless person that he is, and this is the part of the book that Joe Kelly does get right. Peter is selfless. He will put everyone else before him and his needs. So there is a positive. Now, he says, what can I do to solve this problem? What can I do to solve this problem? And this alien gang says, are you familiar with the concept of a pay-per-view event, Spider-Man? Yep, that's the route we are going down, guys. We are certainly going down that route. He says, yes, I understand that. He says, you have fans from Earth who would enjoy watching you and your comrades participate in a good-natured sporting event, Betty Wrestling. Yeah, let's just backtrack there because I said fans from Earth. It's far from Earth. So across the galaxy, Spider-Man has fans who wouldn't mind paying for the chance to see him fight in this Betty Wrestling. Well, what is Betty? You're about to find out when I turn the page. There's Betty. Yes, another arbitrary, boring alien that Spider-Man has to fight. Why? Well, there's a story element that Joe Kelly wants to get in here to sell more comics. What is that? It's the new suit that Xanto gave him, okay? It used to be some alien, but now it's just a husk. It's lifeless, okay? But when he puts this sort of techno suit on him, okay, it gives Pete extra powers and strength and everything else. Now, his question before he goes into battle, why are you fighting for someone else's debt? And of course, that's just Peter, okay? Peter says, because he needs help, but he's too proud to ask for it. So I'm going to give him my help by fighting in this pay-per-view event to clear his debt. Anyway, the fight begins, but there's some secrets that are revealed. And what we find out is that the suit is not a husk. It is still a sentient being. And Pete is horrified, absolutely horrified at the thought of this alien being used against its will. So he says, free it. How do I free it? Okay. And Xanto explains to him that he needs to reboot the suit. So risking his life and limb, rather than finish the fight so he doesn't die and everyone else dies, he wants this suit released immediately, okay, so he can be much weaker and potentially die. And that's what happens. So the suit reboots, okay. And then we get the backstory of the suit. Okay, it's basically, if you've ever seen the character Warlock, that sort of Techni-Arc alien being, he's one of them. And we find his backstory, which again is just boring. Okay, I'm not even going to go through it because I'm just like, this is a double page spread of going through all this stuff just to justify what's happening in the book right now without building any story, without it slowly emerging over a number of issues and Pete coming to the realization that, he's just as bad as Xanto. He's been using someone's against their will. No, we get it all compressed into those 2 pages and we see a Pete here in his boxer shorts on the tongue and this new creature here, which is called Glitch, by the way. Okay, fully self-restored. Now he's rebooted, keeping the jaws open of good old Betty. Now, what I don't understand was this battle, okay, if they won, would release everybody from the debt that Rocket Raccoon has incurred. But rather than that happen, all-out war has broken out. We've got Xanto here and the rest of the gang and the new baby symbiote, Symbi. Yeah. I didn't mention Symbi because I didn't want to go down that route again. But he's there, little baby Venom flying through the air. They've just started fighting. Why? I thought the whole point of this was you go in, you win the fight, we get out, right? But that didn't happen. Anyway, they start working together. And Glitch here says, listen, okay, what I'll do is I'll wrap you in part of my techno-organic whatever, a bit like Venom, all right? And you'll have sort of some of the strength and powers that you had before using my suit, but not quite as strong if I was fully incorporated into you. And off this battle rages with bad dialogue. Rocket Raccoon gets rescued. Good old Glitch here has made an agreement with Betty, because you've got to call it Betty, right? It's got to be funny. This giant alien, big mouth, it's got to be funny, right? So we're calling it Betty because it's funny and cute. He's had a chat with it, all right? And he's come to the alien gangster and says that Betty wants to renegotiate their contract. Yeah, they want to renegotiate the contract for fighting in the ring. Otherwise, it's going to eat this alien. And that's what happens. So Rocket Raccoon goes over there. I guess he's negotiating himself out of his debt. And Pete's sort of, he's done the right thing. But he's a little bit still devastated that he'd been living inside this sentient being without its consent. Anyway, we go back to the ship, and they are working on something in secret, okay? And what we've kind of gleaned from the other issue is that it's something to make Spider-Man strong enough to take on the boring, arbitrary villain Hellgate back on Earth when Marvel has stopped rinsing you of 2 books a month and maybe get back to 1 book. Now, this is what I find a little contradictory, okay? Because Pete doesn't like using that other alien without his consent, yet Xanto, as bad as he is, okay, is now, with those magic underpants, at their mercy. So he has become the slave, essentially, right? Now, wouldn't Peter, with his sort of selfless, justice is the right thing to go, not do that? Wouldn't he want Xanto working with him from free will? Wouldn't he have taken Xanto somewhere to get the justice he deserves for what he's done? It's a bit contradictory. It kind of thrown in to make the story work. Now, I know it happened in World War II when the Allies came in and they tried to sort of, recover whatever they could from German technology and weaponry and everything to better the rest of the world. And I get that concept, right? But this is Peter Parker. He's just stated he doesn't like people doing things against their will. Yet they've got Xanto here, a villain no less, still doing something against his will, which goes against this whole concept of doing the right thing. Anyway, Rocket Raccoon overhears what's going on. He realizes there are secrets and he's not happy about it. And he storms out. And Peter chases him because he wants to explain everything. But before Peter can catch up with him, someone hoists him from the shadows. And it's one of these other alien buddies that he freed, right? And she's like, she's overcome with the fact that Peter's so selfless and becomes quite attracted to him. So they start kissing. Yeah, I know. Peter's got a space girlfriend now. I mean, come on. Anyway, while that's happening, this other being, which I don't know who she is, maybe she's another one of these sentient beings or something bad that's entered the ship, walks through the hallway. And that is it. Yes, this is the state of Amazing Spider-Man. Spidey in space, sending people home back to their loved ones, alien girlfriends, fighting monsters called Betty, so he can come home and face Hellgate, which he should have done in his main book before they split it in 2 to double up on the sales numbers, because Amazing Spider-Man is not selling well. So how do we fix that problem? Do we get a good creative team on it and tell good stories? Or do we do more variants with a new suit to sell even more variants and do 2 issues a month? So when you add those issues up, Amazing Spider-Man is selling more books. Yes, the latter. This is the Marvel way. It is no longer the house of ideas. They don't have any ideas. There's one good book this week, and that book isn't even amazing. It's just good, right? What is going on? Spider-Man needs to go back to being that street-level hero that we love, with real engaging stories, not gimmicks and new suits, and send him to space. I mean, we just had this huge space event in Marvel called Imperial, and they're basically on the outskirts of it. Why wasn't he pulled into that? Why? I don't know. Wouldn't that have been more interesting? Maybe. But no, we are left with this. Spidey needs a new suit, some new technology to go back to Earth and fight Hellgate. And even Hellgate hasn't even been fully explained. What are the stakes? Why is Hellgate really there? Who is the mysterious person pulling Hellgate's strings? Why is Spider-Man so important to this? Why is he the champion that must defeat Hellgate to save the world? We don't know. It's 15 issues in and we've had nothing but gimmicks and bad story, bad dialogue. It is embarrassing. embarrassing. The book should be called The Embarrassing Spider-Man, because that's exactly what it is. I'm absolutely fed up, right? This is another nail in the coffin for my favorite character. I just want this book to be good every month. Now, you are going to say in the comments, yeah, but you missed this, and what about this? And that's fine. But I have read pretty much every single Spider-Man story ever published, okay? And I know that the quality of this book is right down here compared to what we've had before. And there's no reason why it shouldn't be this good anymore. I'm sorry, Joe Kelly. Maybe it's editorial pressure from Nick Lowe, okay, who is still dismantling and destroying everything. And at this point, on purpose to upset fans with Spider-Man, because they can't possibly think this is good. And if they do think this is good, then we have a bigger problem, because it means this is where the level in the Marvel offices are for good stories, for acceptable stories. And it means we're never going to get anything better, and it can only get worse. Now, I'm really, really sorry for this to be a bit of a rant again. Okay, Emilio Laiso has done his best to make it look good. And I tell you what, it does look really nice. The art is perfectly acceptable. It looks good. The fight scenes have that sort of visceral feel to them. You can feel Spidey swinging through the air. You can feel the booms. He's done the best job he possibly can with the art, okay, because the story is so poor. But Joe Kelly, as much as I love you, as much as I love some of the stuff you've done through the decades, this is terrible. And I tell you what, if it doesn't stop, this book is actually not going to make it to 1,000 issues. It really isn't. Anyway, deep breath. Those are my thoughts. Please do let me know yours. I'm always interested to hear what everyone else thinks. Like the video if you can. And please, if you've made it this far, hit subscribe if you can. I really appreciate it. So take care, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.